I did hear a good argument on the radio, I suppose, that athletes don't start the year thinking, right, I'm going to win the Halbergs this year. They're actually just out to perform in their sport, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah. Well, it's like anything, I suppose. It's like journalism in a way. You don't go, well, I'm going to win the Pulitzer Prize for this story in July. I'll do that in July. I mean, you just do your best all year, and at the end of the year, if someone else decides you get an award, well, fine. I mean, I hope people don't go, I'll leave my life hoping I get a knighthood by the end of it. You'd like to think it just happened.
Elsewhere, we've got the tennis. The Australian Open has decided, and Djokovic won convincingly in the end. Really won untroubled till he got to about the semis, but then got criticised for a little bit of gamesmanship. What was your view on that?
I didn't think there was any gamesmanship. I thought he looked a bit tired and hot for a while, and he came back well because he's a fit guy and he only needs 2 or 3 minutes to recuperate. I mean, people can read into it what they want. I mean, if you were stupid enough to be his opponent to look at him and think, oh, well, he's too tired now, I'll win this, that's your problem. I thought he was fine, and I also thought he was clearly the best player in that tournament. And
the gamesmanship he's accused of is hardly new to tennis, and I think there's been a history of people who've played the game to its limit.
Well, I mean, the gamesmanship was he looked tired. I mean, Ken Roseworth used to say he was never more dangerous than when he started stumbling around looking tired. It was just a bit of an act. Jimmy Connors used to do it. Lots of people do it. But then lots of players get tired and then get a second win too. It's not a cardinal sin. It must be nothing else to write about if that's what you need to write about.
And Serena saw it through in the end. I thought Sharapova had chances in that final, and it could well have ended up differently.
Yeah, I mean, I've followed tennis pretty closely over the years and have watched a lot of big matches, including some really close matches between Everett and Navratilova. But that Sharapova-Serena Williams match was the highest quality women's tennis I've ever seen. I thought they were fantastic, and they weren't really losing points, they were winning points. All the points were decided by winners, not just another net, another ball hit out or whatever. They were forcing errors all the time. It was a terrifically imposing sort of a game.
Let's talk about Sevens rugby now. Being in Wellington and concern over perhaps the lack of interest in the Sevens tournament this year. Do you put that down to the competition, or the fact that it's just maybe tired, or what do you think was the reason there?
I think these things go in cycles, and I think the bubble might have burst on the Sevens. If I was running the thing, I'd be looking to move it after the contract expires next year. It's like music festivals. Big Day Out, or what was it, Nambassa? I mean, they're great. 60,000 people turn up, and 4 years later they're gone. You know, they're just, things have a cycle sometimes. In New Zealand, we had two great international tennis tournaments in Wellington in the 80s and early 90s, men's and women's. Great events, and they're gone. You know, not everything lasts forever, and I think the Sevens has been great for 15 years, and maybe it's time to give other cities a go at running it their own way.
What might deceive is that next year we anticipate, I'm guessing, that the Olympic team Sevens is likely to play perhaps that tournament at least. Sonny Bill, Pierre Tau, Ben Smith, whoever. That could make a difference to the attendance.
So the thing is, if you go down that road though, what you're saying is the crowds are going to flock to the stadium because of the quality of the team. I don't think that's been the case at all up till now. I think that that's actually been irrelevant because hardly anybody who follows rugby knew who was in that team, broadly speaking, exaggerating of course, but what I mean is they weren't being drawn into the stadium because of the stars on the field. They were being drawn because of the occasion and the party atmosphere and so on. So what you're then saying, which is a line that people have run, is that people may flock to the stadium next year because of the players, and that therefore the atmosphere and the carnival atmosphere, the party occasion, would be irrelevant to it. And I just don't think that. I think it needs the other part to get the non-rugby lovers in there, and that part is the part that's gone stale.
For rugby lovers, Super Rugby started this weekend, first round of action, and tremendous set of results in terms of the evenness of the competition. All the away teams winning, and 4 of the big teams that would be in finals contention all losing. I think that's good for the competition.
Yeah, it is, and it was good if you live in Wellington to see the Hurricanes have a win, but in the end, it's a Cricket World Cup going on, and this super competition is going to go for another 3 or 4 months, so let the interest build up when summer's finished.
It is a congestion of sport to spread the viewers, isn't it? You've got the World Cup running at the same time. You've got Rugby World Cup, Netball World Cup. Next year's Halbergs could be interesting.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, there aren't off seasons now. Obviously, I mean, everything just piles on top of each other. But really, I find it hard to be as interested in Super Rugby in February as I am in May.
It's about golf and Tiger Woods deciding to step aside for a while, forever. Who knows? Do you see a comeback?
Yeah, I reckon he'll be playing again in a couple of weeks, but I don't think he'll be playing like the Tiger Woods in the early years of the century. I mean, I can't understand how a guy is good enough to win 14 majors and has to keep tinkering with his swing. I mean, if he was good enough to win them with that swing, why would he then go away and keep trying to rebuild it? To me, he's overthinking it. He needs to get back to the pure joy of playing and stop. It's not a technical exercise.
It just seems to me he doesn't want to play unless he's playing at his very best, to the point where the cart comes along and takes him off halfway through a round. I think that's bad sportsmanship and unfair on the rest of the field.
Yeah, actually, we can't talk too much about that though, Tom, because we have a New Zealander who does the same thing all the time, don't we? I mean, Michael Campbell hardly finishes a tournament now. He plays a round and doesn't like the way it's going and he pulls out, or he plays half a round, and Tiger's doing the same now. It's because Tiger must feel he's bigger than the tournament. It doesn't matter about the tournament. If I'm not happy with how I'm going, I'm getting out of here. Too bad about people who have paid to come and watch him play or whatever. I think he's suffering a bit from the yips. Looking at his chipping it to the green. I mean, sometimes he was chipping from one side of the green, it was going off the other side, and he was always so pinpoint with all that. I feel like when he's over the club now, he doesn't actually know if there's going to be a good outcome or not, and you'd never had said that about him a decade ago.
I think what eats away at him too is that he tees off with two young guys and he's hitting next. He's no longer the big guy off the tee, and that's a step down in your ego.
Yeah, I think he's suffered from that ego problem most of his career, actually. He has to be the longest driver. I mean, if he'd driven 15 metres shorter through his whole career and driven it up the fairway instead of into the nearest forest on the right, he would have been 4 or 5 shots per round better again. And at the moment, it's ridiculous him trying to match Jordan Spieth and people like that for distance. He should be making sure he's on the fairway. I mean, he's really handicapping himself by putting himself under a branch or in the rough or whatever.
And finally, the bottom of the pole, Lance Armstrong. I didn't think he could sink it to any lower depths, but getting his wife to take up a carbine just shows what a despicable human being that man is.
Yeah, it's really Lance Armstrong Day, isn't it? You know, you can hoe in and say whatever you want about him now, and he's got no defence. But yeah, he didn't come out of that well, really, did he?
Have you ever known anyone in all your career who's gone from untouchable to you don't want to touch him, if you like, in terms of their slump?
Yeah, well, I think Tiger went through a similar thing a few years ago when about the 93rd prostitute turned up and said, yeah, I was with him as well. I think he'd slumped a fair way. He'd been stripped naked in public. And I know in the 1980s, when I was working as a cricket writer, I'd get rung up by Fleet Street writers from England wanting anything at all about Ian Botham, any piece of dirt. And they used to say, it doesn't matter what it is, we can print it because he has no reputation left to defend, so we're safe from defamation, was their attitude.
It's funny how some people like that ride through it, come out the other side smelling a rover. So we're talking about Sir Ian Botham. He gets a knighthood. Yeah. Shane Warne's the same. He's outlived all the rubbish, to their credit, because they weren't doing evil stuff like Lance's, but you got to give it to them for fortitude.
Yeah, they just bounced back and shrugged their shoulders and carried on being who they were. People like Tiger and Lance Armstrong were so worried about their image, weren't they, that you never really feel you were getting the genuine article, whereas Botham and Warne, the two that you've mentioned, basically they said, hey, this is who I am, like it or lump it. And as time goes on, you grow accustomed to them and you actually end up they're quite likeable larrikins. Whereas Armstrong and Tiger Woods, it's like, this isn't really me, this is the image I'm trying to put out there.
And we just think back to pre-social media days, how people must have behaved we never knew about or never struck. There would be a lot of sporting heroes that there's some things we'd rather not known about them.
Yeah, I saw some stuff that has never been published that would really dent people's reputations. I'm sure it was the same with politicians as well. I mean, there's a lot more scrutiny these days generally, isn't there?